Okay, so the next step is we want to generate a couple of models to uh, hold um, our data and to model our domain. So we already have the user model set up from the template, and so a user is going to have many contracts, and we'll also make it flexible so that a contract can have many users, and that way more than one user can access a contract, make edits to it, and change it, and so forth. So first, we're going to create a contract model. Um, it's going to be pretty basic to begin with, so we're going to give it a we'll call it content, and we're not going to link it up yet because we're going to use kind of a join model to link it to the user, and we'll just we'll leave it at this. So let's migrate that. Now that should be all we need for now. Later on, we might want to add like a roles column to this join so that we could join users to a contract under different role scenarios. But for now, we'll leave it pretty minimal. Okay, and now all we have to do is we want to link our user. So models, user, we'll say, let's go right here. Okay, and then we'll kind of do the same thing with our contract. Okay, now we can just kind of do a quick test to make sure this works. Should have a user in the system. Okay. All right, so there we go. Yeah, we could say, should be able to say contract.users, except for we misspelled it here. Okay. There we go. Okay, now that we kind of have that data modeled and mapped out, we need to add a user interface to be able to create those. Now, a lot of people kind of scoff at scaffolds, but I find a lot of times, especially if you're just throwing up a quick MVP or prototype, they can be very useful, and you can always delete stuff later. So uh, let's go ahead and actually, I want to go ahead and commit this. That way, whatever we add next, we can easily see against what we already have. I think they just want this singular. Okay, so we already have our model, so we're going to just have it skip this. So it's asking if we want to overwrite. We'll say no. All right, and then it generated all of this other stuff for us. Okay, so this gives us our contracts. Now, what we want to do is, obviously we don't want this user to be able to access every contract, so we need to scope that out. So let's go into our, probably hasn't been created yet. There it is. Okay. And this is probably going to tell us, yep, we don't have a policy. So I'm surprised we didn't get one generated. Okay, so here's our scope, and we'll just say we get passed in here a user. So we have access to the user, and we'll say contracts. Oh. So you have to have some special settings set up to use Pundit in your controllers. And what I like to do is have a separate controller for, I call a protected controller, versus a just inheriting from the application controller. And actually what's kind of cool is if we go back to our original all, this should actually tell us that, hey, we're not using the policy scope, so it's warning us that we're using this protected controller, but it's not protected. We're exposing all. So we will go back to this, and now it works. Okay, so if there were some, oh yeah, well, there's a contract we created in the console. Let's create a new contract. Same thing here. So let's go through and authorize these guys. We'll go ahead and authorize it here. Authorize the contract, and we'll say manage. And we don't have a manage method yet, so that's in the new. So I bet the new action is not. We can't manage a new one, so yeah. So we're not authorized, and the reason why is that this is inherited from application policy, and there's a new is saying, hey, it's referencing create, and create is false. So by default, so we'll just say we can always new. Okay, so now we can create a new contract. Create it. Okay, so we can't create yet. And create should be true as well. Okay, now we got that in the create action. Now it's trying to redirect to the show, and it's saying there's no manage. So now let's define, how do we manage this contract? The user can manage a contract if the user has a contract. So Pundit passes in the record. I think that should work, but it doesn't. Let's see. Oh, yep. So here's where we need to maybe put that here. So let's assign this contract to the user. Try this again. There we go. So now we can go back to, okay, so now we got our user can create the contract. Let's make sure we can edit contract. And let's destroy the contract. Before we do that, let's make sure there we go. Okay, so now we only have one join record and one contract. Okay, so before I commit this, I want to clean up some of this stuff. So I don't want, okay, so now we just have our model, our policy, our routes, our controller, our policy, and our views. I think I want to put our root to our contracts index. I think that should work. Yep. Okay. And let's take a look at now this just says my contracts. We'll make this look a little bit better eventually. Let's clean up that menu. We'll put so nav link. Looks right. Yep. Okay, so a simple menu up here. We got the contracts, create contract. So that looks pretty good.